Hello all you wonderful wasteland wanderers out there. This is Mr. New Pegasus, back on the airwaves once again, trying to bring you a bit of respite from the daily horrors that plague all of our lives. We're going to take a break from our usual programming to bring you a story that was passed on to me by a traveler that happened upon my humble little radio station earlier this week. Well, I say passed on, but more truthfully I found it in his saddlebags after he succumbed to some fatal lead poisoning brought on by an unfortunate case of trying to rob me. So, more to the point, he passed on, and now I'll pass this story on to you. But first, a word from our sponsors who help keep me on the air and you entertained. Waffles Cookies. For over 180 years, Waffles has made cookies with their patented peyote brand, the last patent to be issued to any pony from the Equestrian government. Waffles Cookies, when you need to see and taste all the colors of the rainbow. Now, on with our story, entitled simply, Dead Tree. Chapter 1, Waking Up in a Dark Place. From the depths of ashes, are we supposed to rise? Well, how do you rise when you know nothing about the world you have been returned to? Sometimes time forgets you, and you have to adjust. R. Frost. 182 years, 1 month, 2 weeks post-megaspells. Sunrise, get up! You have to go, come on, snap out of it! An unfamiliar voice called to me as the world around slowly came to. I didn't know where I was, but I felt the sensation of floating. I was breathing through a mask, plastic and hard around my muzzle. The air was stale, but rich at the same time as it flowed through it and into my lungs. A vat of gelatin-like fluid surrounded my body. I was cold, numb, but not painfully so. More like when you sleep for too long and try to get up. I stirred, and bubbles in the fluid around me protested as I let out a heavy exhale that pushed past the mask. I fluttered my eyes open, trying to see through the viscous substance. The nearly non-existent light in the tank didn't yield any details. Huh? What? Where am I? A stasis tank? Who are you? Wait, how can I hear you? My thoughts were jumbled along with my senses. That isn't important. I didn't pick you to sit here as Stable Tech's experiment. Whoever's voice it was an older, higher-pitched mare. She wasn't talking to my ears either, but directly going through to my thoughts. Suddenly, the container's outer walls whined and it started to open. A blinding light hit my eyes, and I raised my hoof to shield myself from it. The fluid shifting and bubbles echoed against my ears. The tank shook heavily, and a rumble resounded through the fluid as it started to drain away. I settled onto the pod's floor and immediately forced the mask from my snout. I looked around and saw dozens of white egg containers in neat little rows. Each pod had a monitor in front of it, attached to the floor and a walkway. They read life signs of ponies inside, along with their names and designation numbers starting with 043. As the last of the fluid left, I could hear an alarm going off, which went from a dull, distant, annoying noise to a blaring siren. How long have I been out? I don't know, said the voice of a pink, ambiguous blob forming in the corner of my vision. I couldn't make out the creature, but as I turned my head, whatever she was stayed in the corner of my vision. It was like looking at some sort of floating puddle that wasn't interacting with the environment around it. I thought it might be an imaginary friend, or it might have gone insane. The glass opened with a groan, and cold air washed over my soaked coat, sending chills down my spine. My eyes adjusted to the light better without looking through the glass, and I could see much more clearly. My hooves came into view, white-tipped hooves with a green coat. What? screen? This can't be me. This has to be another memory, or... I had to be sure. I took a step forward and waved my hoof back and forth in front of my vision. Nope, not a passenger. That means this is real? Why am I green? I was white when I went to sleep. What did they do to me? Sunrise, we don't have a lot of time. You need to move, and quickly. The pink cloud formed, slightly pulsing with each word, like it was pulsing instead of moving a mouth. The large egg-like chamber I was in finished opening, and I slowly moved my hooves forward with pained stretching. I was so shaky from ages of being in stasis as my hooves met the metal walkway outside the tank. A set of yellow arrows were painted on the floor, pointing off to my right, with bright runway lights indicating the direction to move. I know this place. I'm in Stable 43. We're safe here. At least from every pony but those stable tech staff. And Agent 9. I shivered from the thought of that mare, and wobbled slightly when my strength waned. I sat on my flanks and put up a hoof to my head to steady myself and resist the urge to fall down completely. Sunrise! Get moving now! The pink cloud screamed so loud it gave me a shooting headache. Whoever you are, you can hear my thoughts, so have some patience. I hate waking up from the tank. I always feel the need to... I didn't get to finish my thought before sickness overtook my mind and stomach. I clambered to the edge of the walkway beside my stasis tube. My stomach churned violently while I produced dry heaves that made me tear up in agony. Whatever I had eaten before getting into the tank came flying out and plastered the side of my stasis pod. Okay. No ponies around, so there's no need to be discreet. It was just puke. Right as I wiped my mouth off with a hoof, a mechanical grinding broke through the alarm noise, and I could see a pip buck being extended from my stasis pod monitoring panel. I recognized it with my name, Wandering Sunrise, flashing in the top corner. I placed my right hoof into it and snapped it shut with my left. The eyes forward sparkle turned on automatically as the bottom of my vision lit up with red dots over a 360-degree compass. Hold up, red? Red usually means it intends to hurt me. Yes, Sunrise, red, bad. The voice spoke to me like a child, and I hated it for it. And if they catch you, this will all be for nothing. Now run! My sense of urgency took hold and told me to move. My fear escalated as another distant rumble shook the room, and my hooves had to steady themselves against the vibrations piercing the ground. Earthquake? No. That was an explosion. At least a Class 2 explosive, caused by a missile? Or maybe a 1-pound block of plastique? I blinked and stopped. Wait, how do I know that? I'm responsible for it. Now, Sunrise, head opposite of the arrows. The pink figure was starting to take shape, but not to the point where any real details could be made out other than it was a pony. Why? It isn't like the stable tech ponies are gonna hurt me, right? Sunrise, they think you caused the explosion. What? I've been in my stasis pod this entire time like a good filly. Just as I finished that thought, hoof steps piqued my ears from a catwalk above the pods. A full-sized stallion in a lab coat galloped at top speed through the room. He had a traditional white lab coat with the obnoxious blue-yellow Stable Tech logo on the pocket and his back. His soft gray coat didn't quite seem to match the vibrant orange mane and tail that danced in the wind of his gallop. He was wearing a visor that had some sort of specialized output from a pip buck hooked into it on his foreleg. He slid to a halt as soon as he saw me. There she is! Guards, hurry! He shouted at the top of his lungs and pointed a hoof at me. The mark is on her! The anger in his voice was only tempered by a sense of fear about it. The fear made itself known quickly as giant rats, almost as big as me, were running down the catwalk with teeth as long as my snout and sets of claws as big as my hoof. A snarl from their jaws rose above the commotion to draw every pony's undivided attention to the leathery, beige, pony-eating creatures. How? When did rats get that huge? The Stable Tech stallion produced a big revolver from inside his coat. He shoved the gun trigger into his mouth and started shooting at the onrushing rats. Do you see now? Run, Sunrise, run! I was already bolting while the pink entity encouraged me to go faster. I dashed in the opposite direction of gunfire, directly contrary to the arrows and lights on the walkway. The steel and concrete walls of the stable that had always appeared impenetrable now had a massive hole blown in them. Scattered near the explosion site were the broken and shattered remains of a pony's suit of hardened armor. Cooked pony meat showed me there had been a pony inside that armor. The blast hole was large enough for 3 mares to walk through, side by side. The armor was painted blue with yellow stripes where it wasn't shattered into pieces and charred black. I recognized the model, T-54B. Did that power-armored guard explode? What happened? Why are they after me? Where's Mom? Dad? Sunrise, those are questions that will be answered later. For now, just run and don't look back. The pink entity faded from view as I stepped over the pony leg-shaped armor plating. The Stable Tech jumpsuit started to cling against my fur coat as the wind from running whipped against me. The barding was irritating and now made itself known as I strained against it to flee out of the stable. I didn't look back, only rushed forward along the metal walkway towards the exit. The sound of alarms and gunfire were getting distant. The intense rhythm of my pounding heart in time with the echoes of hooves galloping over steel. I dashed for the hole blown into our safety bunker. There was nothing but blackness beyond that exit. Even the laboratory lights couldn't penetrate outside the destroyed stable wall. What could have blown a hole in the stable? Are the zebras invading? What is going on? My hooves carried me through the hole into blackness. Something wet touched my face and washed over my nose as the blackness was pushed back by a dim light. Once again, this is Mr. New Pegasus. And now, a word from our sponsors. Need water that doesn't make your Geiger counter click? Go to the roof. They have more than enough and even offer it for the cheapest price. It may not taste the best, but it's 100% pure or your cap's back. Not to mention the mystery meat is always in season. Head on up to the roof for all of your pure water needs. Oh, what a nightmare. What happened? Why does it feel like a frantic gremlin just drove a railroad spike through my brain? Also, I'm wet? Is that what I'm feeling? The icy water refused to be ignored, and I would have to open my eyes to discover I was shoulder deep in water. Note to self, do not go to sleep next to an overly friendly mole rat next time. The only justification I could give myself for not immediately being aware of my surroundings was the pounding of that mad gremlin and the chill in my bones. If not for these, I would have immediately been aware of larger bodies soaking up near me. I felt barding cling to me uncomfortably and my tail was matted down against my flank as it floated just on the surface of the water level. My eyes strained to stay open against the throbbing in my head. Slowly, the tunnel vision went away, and the aching twinges subsided to reveal the rest of the dimly lit room. Torchlight around me flickered against a griffin wearing a sun-bleached desperado sombrero, straight out of one of those wild Appaloosa movies. He was laying in the pool inches from my nose. His looks portrayed a fresh-off-the-Pony Express to Appaloosa appearance, but with the long brown, weathered duster draped over his back. I wouldn't have been surprised to see an old six-shooter hanging off his belt. He was groggily getting up and rolling over to his belly in the pool of water. I had never seen a griffin this close before as he stood to his full height. Some instinct kicked me in the back of my mind, and I started to back up. As soon as I took one step back, I ran into 2 sets of hooves behind me. My head snapped to my hindquarters. My hooves were touching 2 different-looking zebras. The 2 zebras, both unconscious, and both stallions, started to move at my touch. My hind legs were resting on one of their respective forelegs each. Both zebras looked so radically strange from each other, they may as well have been 2 entirely separate breeds. One's mane was a short mohawk, while the other's was longer and braided. Even the way their stripes were set contrasted. One straight, pink-striped zebra without scars, the other with stripes that swirled in circles and wore an eye patch. The pink-striped zebra was pristine, while the black-swirl-striped one had a prolonged 3-claw scar across his chest. The tone between them was as clear as day is from night. They each bore a cutie mark. They're called glyph marks, Sunrise, that I couldn't understand or clearly make out. After our awkward moment of physical contact, the pink zebra snapped away, pulled back from me. Once he realized I meant no harm, he nodded at me respectfully and gently. His darker counterpart, however, jostled to his hooves and threw my hoof back at me, shouting, "Hey, keep your hooves to yourself, kid." A splash of water resounded from our struggling. I gave him a hurt look, but he just snorted and jerked his head away. Maybe it would be best if I just pulled away from them and got out of here. They don't seem to have any particular interest in me. Slowly I skulked away, trying to sneak out of their sight. My bones ached and my body felt like it might collapse back into the cold water as I struggled to stay quiet enough to stay beneath their notice. This completely failed, as I am not a sneaky bone. I had 3 sets of eyes just watching, and I looked at them, smiling nervously. What I wouldn't give for a horn with an invisibility spell right now. Once again, you're walking the Wasteland with Mr. New Pegasus, and today's program is brought to you by The Curator. The Curator is looking for anyone who can fix old-world machines. If you've got a knack and want to help build the collection at the Metropolis, make sure to come and apply. He's also offering top dollar for any old-world tech in remotely working order, especially construction equipment, so come on over to the Metropolis and ask for the old Zebra Gentle Colt known as The Curator. And now, back to our story. The room was so much larger than I thought, a fact that was somewhat concealed by these 3 around me till I finally got clear of them. My jitters only got worse when the griffin and black-striped zebra squared up in the water and began to stare each other down. Oh no, did they actually dislike each other? Have I been dropped into a prison camp by the Ministry of Morale? Oh, please don't start fighting. The tension in the room was starting to build. It was clear some pony or another was going to strike, and soon. Wanting to avoid being caught in the middle of it, I backed into a large brown rock and came to a sudden stop. The motion caused a visor to slap down over my eyes and nearly popped me in the nose. It was then I realized that my barding had changed drastically. Something felt off in the space between my flanks and the rock. I looked over my sides and noticed a leather duster was hooked into the barding over my stable suit. It felt rough against my coat and flanks, but I will admit the extra covering might feel nice once it dries off. The second thing on my pony self was a riot control helmet, the kind used to put down protests during the war. If its visor hadn't flopped down, I probably wouldn't have noticed the helmet. It was fit so perfectly for me that I didn't even notice the extra weight. Ow. Okay, note to self. I started to grumble out loud, unable to finish my thought due to a fresh wave of sharp pain piercing my skull. Once that subsided, however, it was then that I noticed one of the torches softly illuminating the room was out. Why was that one out? I pondered, staring at it. Was someone just lazy? We all have bigger priorities to deal with than potentially fighting, like getting moving and find out who dropped us all in here. I lifted my right hoof and looked to my pip buck, giving pause for a few moments as the emerald green of my coat reflected against the display in the dim light. Aside from the killer headache it failed to display, it was showing that I was perfectly okay. Explain the headache then, or the fact that I'm the wrong color still. Seriously, some pony needs to start giving me answers that make sense. My attention was eventually drawn back to the rest of the chamber, as the pounding in my skull started to die down some more. My heart skipped a beat as the rock I was leaning against started to move. It wasn't a rock at all. Instead, it was some huge beast. I tried to back away, only to be washed in a wave that crested over my shoulders by a diamond dog 4 times my size rising up right next to me. He was wearing biker leathers and his own duster covered in segmented steel plates. He was getting up slower than I had, as his eyes blinked rapidly to adjust to the light around us. I eyed up the massive body of the diamond dog, awestruck by his sheer mass, until I found myself staring into his hard, yellow-jacket eyes. I was momentarily paralyzed by the eye contact, a shiver passing down my spine. I need to look anywhere else right now because he is the scariest thing in here. Hoping he wouldn't think much of me, I kept my gaze moving upwards. Once I was looking at the ceiling, I found a good lead as to how he ended up here. Above us, a good 30 or 40 feet, was a hole large enough for the griffin to fit through if he folded his wings in. It allowed a dulled beam of overcast daylight to shine down into the room, though it wasn't bright enough to illuminate the area outside the center of the pool. Just how deep is this hole? Damn it, my box got wet, cursed the cardboard shipping container next to one of the zebras. It was roughly large enough for one pony or two foals to fit into comfortably, though it was now submerged knee-deep and shifting about. Oh, a talking box. How nice. Wait, a talking box? And it's moving? Why is a box, addressed to be shipped to Canterlot no less, moving and talking? To my surprise, it moved again before being lifted up by something inside it. A set of 4 hooves, all solid white, sprung out from the bottom flaps of the box. There's a pony in a box? Times like this that make me wish I was a unicorn. Then I could dry it in an instant. Huh, I practically had that same thought earlier. So I'm guessing she's an earth pony too? The box seemed to roll with a shrug and move to get out of the shallow pool we were all standing in. Okay, still not quite the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The griffin grumbled as he walked towards the edge of the pool. Someone's gonna have hell to pay, with a voice like gravel being ground into the rocks around us. If a rock muncher could talk, that'd be his voice. It was grating on the ears, no matter how much you wanted him to sound pleasant. I don't think that's his normal voice. I think he's forcing it or has an injury. As he flexed his wings, his matted, white-tipped wing clung close to his body. Not immediately flying out and abandoning us, eh? Well, at least not till those dry. Just be friendly, Sunrise, I thought, hoping I didn't seem nervous to the others. What's the worst that can happen? Surely the world hasn't gotten any worse since the mega spells went off, right? How long could it have been since I last stepped into the stable? I checked the date on my pip buck, CE 1196. Strange. That'd make it about 182 years after we went into the stable. No way that's right. Must be a bug in the system. It would explain why it can't detect my head injury if it can't even tell what the date is. The room got a whole lot more tense when the zebra finally spoke to break the tension. Okay, which one of you put us down here? It was you, wasn't it? The black-striped zebra jumped across the water, his nose snorting menacingly as he took on an aggressive stance in front of the griffin. It was strange seeing a pony up on its hind legs with hooves extended ready to strike. What are you accusing me for? I woke up here same as you. Besides, I'm a regulator. It's my job to investigate pony nap and not cause it. The griffin shot back, practically beak to nose as he returned the zebra's glare. You gotta do something or they're gonna tear each other apart and I'll never get any answers. Against my better judgment, I stepped between them and held up my pip-buck-clad leg, pointing it in the direction of the zebra and then the griffin. They were poised to strike, but no pony dared to make the first move. Okay, now what? Maybe say hello? Ponies aren't as likely to fight if they have a name to them, right? Hi every pony, I started. All eyes turned towards me, and suddenly whatever confidence I had started to dwindle. I felt this creeping sensation they might strike me instead. Wait a minute, the zebra said, both he and the griffin turning to me in unison. It was you! The harsh squawk and enraged whinny echoed in the room around us. I cringed and now wanted to be anywhere but here. Yeah, come to think of it, you were already awake when the rest of us started moving, stated the griffin. Suddenly they all stepped towards me, a very murderous look on each of their faces. My ears folded back in fear, and I splashed my way backwards to the edge of the pool. That's when the diamond dog broke any chance of them wanting to pick a fight. He picked his cowpuncher hat off his head and dumped the water out of it and all over me. Geez, guy, I'm already soaked. No need to make it excessive. They all stopped as this scene unfolded. They were much too busy looking at the big beast now instead of little old me. Slowly, I turned around and came face to face with the dog, who was leaning down, eye to eye with me. He had a big toothy grin on his face that made my skin crawl. Oh, please tell me diamond dogs don't eat ponies. I'd be surprised if that little filly pony naps. She ain't a wastelander, she's a stable pony, the diamond dog stated before using his clawed hand to turn me around to look at the others in the room. They all looked between each other and there was a nod of confusion. Then the pink-striped zebra stepped up between myself and the other three. Just to remind you, you're listening to Mr. New Pegasus on Wasteland Radio. Once again, time for a little commercial break and a word from our sponsors. Who can you rely on when you're wandering through the Wastelands? The Philly Scouts. We're still loyal, honest, brave, and always prepared. Even after the end of the world, our cookies can't be beat and our coffee will make you an addict with just one cup. So, if you see us out there at one of our many locations, you'd better make sure to come on up, say hello, and buy our cookies, or else we'll break your kneecaps. And now, back to our story. I believe that he is right. She could not be responsible for our plight. The pink-striped pony genuinely tried to calm them down while giving a look of thank you from the corner of his blue eye. Perhaps together we should work and find a way out of this hurt. With water dripping off me, I mentally counted to 5 and took a breath. Calm down, Sunrise, you'll be fine. They aren't going to fight right now. We just need to get them to work together. The Diamond Dog was quick to forget all of us and jumped onto the landing now instead. His focus and mine were drawn to a nearby doorway, one that was barred and barricaded with a lit torch on each side. I took another look around, and that appeared to be the only way out of this room we could access. It was thanks to those torches that I was able to spot something glinting off the surface of the pool, a reflection where the Diamond Dog had been lying. The glint belonged to a set of pony skeletons at the bottom of the pool. I stood there, transfixed upon them. My knees started to shake, and my stomach began churning. There were dead ponies in the water with me, or at least their skeletons. Where and when am I? I thought my pip-buck dates were out of whack. Could it really have been that long? The darker zebra looked around as he took to his hooves and sighed. Great, I'm soaked to the bone in a cave with a bunch of strangers, one of which I'm convinced is responsible for me being here. He shot me a look of suspicion that could kill any pony with his good eye. How do I convince him I'm not responsible? Don't dwell on that right now, silly. Focus on getting out of here. Who knows? Stay on their good side and they might just become your friends. The voice from the tank echoed in my head. Given how no pony reacted, it was likely they couldn't hear it. The pink-striped zebra started striking up a conversation with thin air. Every pony looked at him like he was mad, but I swear I could hear another voice. I just couldn't make out any of the words. The others moved off and ignored him, while I stared a bit before shifting to follow, my hoof catching something in the water. Great, now I'm talking to voices in my head. The griffin and black-striped zebra took a minute to review their surroundings. As they did so, my focus returned to the pony skeletons in the water that my hoof was now resting against. Yeah, those are skeletons of ponies, and they're definitely real. I'd never seen a dead pony, or their skeletons, much less a pile of them laid completely bare. By the way my hoof felt against its skull, they were real too. I wasn't sure if I should inspect them closer for curiosity's sake, or scream. The Diamond Dog growled at something behind me and made the decision for me. Corpses! I screamed out at the top of my lungs, backpedaling as fast as my waterlogged legs could take me. The sounds of movement and awkward silence between the creatures was shattered with the ear-piercing shriek of a terrified filly, also known as me. I turned and bolted for the edge of the pool, yelling my head off hysterically. I had been in that soup with the remains of ponies. Even if the little logic pony in my mind was shouting, "They're skeletons, it's fine, it's not like you can get sick from them or anything." Right as I was about to escape from the pool, the griffin grabbed me by the hind leg and pulled. My yelp silenced by a gurgle of water as my face went under. When I came up, I started protesting. No, let me go, I didn't do... He shoved a talon in my mouth, forcing me to be quiet. He then held me upside down like a child's toy or a piece of meat roasted over a fire. Every pony else gathered around to watch a frightened filly gagged and frozen in his grip. He's gonna kill me right now, isn't he? This is it. I'm gonna die to some griffin merc right now and not know why. He forced my leg up to tilt his sombrero back, and I got a good and up-close look at his face. He had a hole where his right eye should be, just a vacant blackness to stare into. I stared into that abyss, which led to somewhere darker than any pony should ever go. Another knot formed in my stomach. The taste of bile hit my throat, and with it having nowhere to go, I was forced to take a long, disgusting swallow of my own vomit. Both zebras and the pony in the box just stared at me as though I'd broken some unwritten rule. "Geez, calm yourself, girl. Have you never seen a dead body?" Unable to answer the griffin properly, I shook my head. "This is the Wasteland. How have you managed to survive all this time without seeing a dead body?" He stared incredulously, his gravelly voice indicative of a middle-aged bird. He still had that talon over my mouth while holding me upside down with the other one, so all I could do was point a hoof at the 43 on my stable barding. Surprisingly, the griffin then set me down gently and removed his claw from my mouth. My little pony lungs started to hyperventilate. "I've never seen a dead body before. This is my first time out of stable 43. My shouting left me feeling a bit silly as I blushed and looked away from every pony else. The others worked their way onto dry land. My legs were shaking from the knees down as I tried to process the dead bodies behind me. With an effort that felt like moving a mountain, I placed both hooves onto the dry cave floor and hauled myself out of the water. If anything, I wasn't the strongest pony, and the edge of the pool was at my shoulder height. Fine, I admit it. I'm short and not that strong for an earth pony. I was kind of hoping for a distraction from the dead bodies behind me, and a deep, accented voice provided just that. "Any y'all know way to put these back together?" The diamond dog pointed his paw at a large pile of metal pieces on the floor next to a green metal box marked 10mm ammo in bright yellow text. Next to the parts were 3 already assembled 10mm Equestrian Army pistols. The parts must be disassembled 10mm pistols. Without a word, I ran over to the box, sat down, and started to parcel out metal bits. The 2 zebras and the griffin took the intact pistols to check them. The sound of clips being loaded made my skin crawl. I focused on something that was easy to understand: machines. These were cruder, larger, and ramshackle compared to the smooth, sleek ones I'd tinkered with back at my father's mechanic shop. I frowned in frustration trying to match an oversized receiver to a worn barrel that didn't quite fit. Just how long have I been in the stable? How long have we been unconscious in here? Despite having the know-how, I hadn't ever put an actual gun together before. By the time I was done, the end result looked like some lopsided monstrosity that would fall apart the first time someone squeezed it a bit too tight. Seeing no other way to proceed, I took it apart and started over. About halfway through my second attempt, the griffin nearly caused me to jump out of my skin. He placed a talon on my shoulder and leaned in to look at what I was doing. Feeling uncomfortable, I turned my head and glared at him. Can I help you?" He was in my light, stopping my work from proceeding. All I got was a snort in return, and him leaning out just enough for me to have my light again. "Great, how did I offend you now?" Just like me, the diamond dog seemed to be making himself busy. Only difference was that he was trying to figure out how to open the door by pounding away with his claws at the wooden barricade and the steel door behind it. "Stupid pony doors, always getting locked at the worst of times." As the diamond dog resumed working on the door, the pony in the box, however, kept poking one party member after the other as they wandered around. The pony inside got no direct response from any of us, myself included. I mean, how do you talk to a box that moves and prods you? They just kept at it, prodding us and moving on to the next when each creature continued to ignore them. Perhaps to clear the air, the 2 zebras got into a conversation. Only it was in what I assumed to be Zebretian. All I could gather from the inflections of their voices was that the black-striped one was much more serious than the pink one. They were at least being friendly to each other, which was a good sign for us all. "Don't have to like each other, just tolerate one another until we can find a way out, and then we can go our separate ways, and... No, Sunrise, you are going to do what is right and give them the benefit of the doubt, or else your parents would disown you." The voice from the back at the stable interrupted my thoughts and shouted them down. "And besides, they're all you've got to go on right now." As fast as that irritatingly cheerful voice was there, the presence it brought with it was gone again before I could say a thing. The griffin kept standing over me like a guard dog that was too attached to its owner. "Would it kill you to at least talk instead of keeping a talon on my shoulder?" Funny enough, what little activity was happening in there produced a cacophony of strange noises blending together. A shuffling box, sand dog claws on steel. two distinctly different zebras speaking an alien tongue, my hooves working to piece together a pistol, and the rasp of the griffin breathing down my neck. Great, I've been out of the stable for all of what feels like 20 minutes, and I already have a babysitter. Can I please be treated like I'm older than a blank flank foal? I mean, I get that I was the last in my class to get their cutie mark, and well, I still don't have it yet, but at least give me some respect. My hooves moved quickly as I effortlessly assembled the pieces, humming an old Canterlot musical to myself to the rhythm of the noises the others were making. An abrupt sudden snap from the pistol stopped any hopeful mood, though. Immediately I was drawn back to the pistol in my hooves, head cocked to the side. Everything looks about right, so that noise shouldn't have happened. The very next moment, and I cannot stress enough how I don't know how this happened, the whole thing somehow detonated like a mini-grenade. The loud bang was ear-piercing, shrapnel tearing out into myself and the armored duster of the griffin. All I could do was flinch as hundreds of small pieces of twisted metal pinged off plates in my barding I had noticed only moments ago. After dropping the crumbled and broken bits of what used to be a gun, I slowly lowered my hooves again and rose to survey the damage. The pistol was completely destroyed, and my hooves had minor black burn marks on them. They stung, but were in no way incapacitated. Okay, so that just happened? Is that how the laws of physics gets its kicks, or did reality just blink there for a second? I thought as I looked around, the last remaining scraps spread across the floor. Wait, ew, something is in my mouth. I bit down and immediately regretted it. My teeth protested in torment and I spat it out. A piece of metal hit my hoof. I was now holding a bent firing pin with a few drops of blood on it. Alright, apparently reality wants to play it that way today. Every pony came over to investigate, save for the pink zebra. He was alone and talking to thin air. Weirdly enough, I could hear another voice, but there was no obvious source for it. I squinted my eyes to make out the voice's owner, but found nothing in the shadows. I couldn't make out any of the words, and I couldn't help but wonder what was going on over there. Great, a pink-striped zebra that talks to invisible beings lurking in shadows in a language I can't understand. Could he possibly be any more strange? I became self-conscious that all eyes were trained on me. Every pony expecting something of an explanation that I couldn't give. Maybe I should take advantage of this opportunity and get some names, as well as an idea of who I'm helping exactly. Hi, every pony. Sorry about the pistol. No idea how that exploded. But anyway, I've already tried to introduce myself earlier. I'm Wandering Sunrise, in case you forgot. So, who are the rest of you? Great job, Sunrise. You just blew up a pistol in front of them. I'm sure they're super friendly or just especially understanding. Funny enough, the first one to react was the pink-striped zebra. He stepped towards us and stopped talking to his invisible friend. He wore a leather cloak that carried the shadows with him, giving him a dark, menacing look despite the sweet pink stripes. You may call me Chifundo by name, zebra shaman of the lands which remain. Chifundo gave a bow of respect as he crossed a hoof over his chest while he spoke. Progress! Someone broke the ice, and it was a zebra who was not trying to murder me. I guess the war is over? I'm Buddy. I'm a merc from the Appaloosa Sanddog clan. The Sanddog added, pushing his shoulder against the door in an attempt to open it. I should probably make a mental note not to tell him I thought he was a diamond dog until now, and not to insult him. Buddy was clearly mustering all his strength, yet the door still refused to budge. His massive toned legs scraped against the cave floor as they slid back from the effort of his muscles against the immovable object. The same door the moving talking box was sitting in front of, poking and prodding with hooves from under the box's edge. The griffin turned to me and tipped his sombrero. I'm Algasil, and I'm going to assume the exploding pistol wasn't some party trick. The large griffin towering over me pulled back his duster and extended an open talon towards me. Inside were 3 knives, all with screws currently not attached to their hilts. Could you at least refit these blades to their handles? He's staying friendly at least, even though that pistol blew up like an apple grenade. Knives are much simpler machines than these guns. Wait, is the griffin trusting me now? Yeah, I can do that. It'd be easier if given better tools, though, I replied automatically, trying to keep my thoughts clear of the skeletons in the water. The fact that Chifundo was likely talking to a spirit that might be a dead pony wasn't helping. My name is Neota, and has anyone tried just unbarring the door? The
gray and black striped zebra mentioned in a monotone tenor.
Between the limited answer and considering the dimly lit room, I didn't know what to make of him. I pointed a hoof at the sand dog in reply to Neota and nodded at the zebra. At least they had been nice enough to introduce themselves to me. I resumed putting together weapons. First the knives, which were rather easy to do and only took a few minutes. They were a simple slide into the hilt, but seeing as I didn't have a screwdriver on me, I had to improvise by using the blades to turn and screw them into place. Once that was done, I picked up what intact parts remained from the exploded pistol, tossing aside the shattered, bent, and broken pieces that wouldn't function any longer. I figured I could slap together one really nice gun out of the remaining parts. My newly acquired duster served to polish and clean the individual pieces as I put them into place. You know, where did I even get this duster? And who armored my stable suit barding? I mean, the plates are nice, but are they really necessary? Once the pistol was together, it looked like it was fresh off the factory floor. I felt a deep satisfaction as I loaded rounds into a clip. The pistol took the rounds so smoothly it did not even click when it locked into place. I looked at Augusil and smiled. See? Not gonna do anything funny. I mean, we can hopefully find some pony to show us the way out, right? I think we're all on the same page and we'll get the bastards who did this, Augusil shot back. Neota gave a snort and an affirmative nod while I looked horrified at the two of them. I flinched and then spoke meekly. I mean, I don't really want to hurt any pony if we don't have to. I'm not hurt yet, so can't we all just be friends? Those words shot out of my mouth before they could be processed through my brain filter. Sunrise, where was your filter? And where's their filter? They were cursing in front of a foal? It was still me, right? I'm the one who's not quite an adult. They do realize this, don't they? Every pony belted out a laugh like I had just taken a hoof to the face. Buddy turned around from across the room and tipped his hat at me through the dim light. Sunrise down, they took our shit. They ain't friends.
With great effort and a loud shout of anger, the sand dog finally removed the barring against the door.
With the obstacle gone, he then took a large paw and slammed hard. I jumped a little as the door swung out with enough force to clatter on the hallway walls outside our chamber. Unlike the cave-like structure we were in, the hallway outside had tiled flooring and metal walls. There were slots for piping and several torches for light. Who was taking the time to light all these torches? I could see where light fixtures would go as well. It slowly started to feel familiar to me, though I still couldn't place it. Buddy didn't wait for the rest of us. He walked through the doorway, his heavy claws scraping across the tiles before he used one to grab the first torch he came across off the wall. All right, this has been bugging me to no end. As the others filed into the hallway ahead of me, I spoke what was on my mind. Does every pony use language like that now? Can I get away with saying stuff as colorful as the rest of you? No one bothered to answer. Thinking I could use some light of my own, I moved to grab a torch. Chifundo, for some reason, went to investigate the one torch that wasn't burning. I shrugged and worked to get a torch off the wall for myself. I jumped up as high as I could. Though my hooves could barely reach the torch, I did manage to snag it. While I was trying to tie it into my barding knot where a backpack or set of saddlebags should have gone, there was a grinding rock sound, and I stopped and snapped my attention in the direction of the racket, the exact spot where Chifundo had been moments ago, only now there was a wide-open entrance that wasn't there before. Inside, I could make out two things lying on the floor between the door frame. A shotgun and a backpack. A shotgun that looked like it was my size hung next to a large brown backpack with a sunrise painted on it. As I looked at it, a memory flooded back to my mind. That's right, it's me, Mr. New Pegasus, back with one final interruption from those wonderful people we call sponsors who keep me on the air. Are you tired of doing all the work by yourself? Do your companions constantly let you down or get in your way? Then look no further than the Silver Fang Mercenaries. We are more than happy to do your work for you. We don't take dirty jobs either, so no worries about us turning on you. After all, we have to keep that code if we're going to compete with the Talons. The Silver Fang Mercenaries, where silver doesn't mean second best. And now, on with the conclusion of our story. Now hold the stock tight against your shoulder, breathe deep and slow, and don't forget to use the iron sights. Standing where I was, I couldn't see the pony behind me that the voice belonged to, but I had a shotgun in my hooves, and there were tin cans set up across a dusty field about 20 feet away. The memories ran through me as vivid as any lucid dream. I found myself looking down at the small-sized shotgun, certain that it was the exact same weapon. When I pressed the butt of the gun to my shoulder, it lined up perfectly with my eye to aim down the length of the barrel. It was like this weapon was made for exactly one pony. Me. Go on, Sunrise. If you're going to survive out here, you're going to need to learn how to shoot. The voice was very prim, proper, and definitely that of a male, though I couldn't say if I met him before. My mind mouthed the words Mr. Claus, but who was Mr. Claus? I pulled the trigger with my tongue, and the shotgun fired a roar of buckshot out. A tin can clattered to the ground from the impact of the pellets as the memory fled from me. That shotgun, I murmured, and then turned to the others that had started into the hallway. They had moved nearly out of sight in the darkness of the metal halls. Hey, every pony, come back! Chifundo found a secret room! I trotted towards the secret room happily. I wish I hadn't. The smell hit first, the smell of decay, long since sealed up and made stale, washed over me. My hooves wanted me to get out of there ASAP, but my eyes, however, couldn't be torn away from the 3 bloated bodies. Bodies of ponies. 1 Earth and 2 unicorns who, were it not for the post-mortem bloating, looked perfectly healthy. I could see hoof scratches at the doorframe just inside. Most of the marks around the floor edge of the doorway told the story of a futile attempt to escape. One of the corpses was desperately holding onto their throat. Had they died from asphyxiation? My stomach twisted up one more time, and that was all I could take. I vomited up everything my insides had in them into the pool we woke up in. I must have eaten recently, it turns out, because it took a while before I was dry heaving. I was there long enough for the others to return, and everything within 5 hooves of me inside the pool had gone from crystal clear water to puke green rancid bile floating on the surface. The others decided to talk among themselves, and I only succeeded in making one part out. Only lawbreakers have secret doors, Augustil declared as I looked into the room where the living and dead now mingled. I spat a few times into the water, then wiped my mouth clean with a hoof. Get that shotgun. It's mine. Skeletons aside, I've never seen a dead body till now, I managed. I left the pool and worked my way over to the door before attempting to close it. At least I could be the rear guard, right? Oh man, I had eyes once, the disembodied voice said. I glanced around at that, wondering if somehow I'd catch a glimpse of that young mare if I looked just the right way. Try as I might, my eyes revealed nothing. All the others but Nyota went into the room, beginning to take items in a process I guess can only be described as looting. I trotted over to the doorway, back into the tiled hallway away from the dead bodies. Nyota was standing guard there. I started to say something, but his hoof was shoved into my mouth before I could utter a word. Rude! Both our eyes were drawn to the torch Chifundo lit, which flickered out. The rumble of stone echoed through our ears again. Nyota's eyes bounced from the doorway to the torch as I realized that those two seemed to be connected somehow. If that burns out, then the others will be trapped in there, just like those ponies whose bodies littered the room. I rushed forward and pulled the torch I dropped into my mouth. I just met these ponies, and if I lose any of them now or get separated, then there's no promise I'll get out of here. I gotta keep this torch lit. I got up onto the wall with hooves and held my burning torch against the dark one, trying to relight it. The door's descent slowed somewhat, but still wasn't stopping. Augustil apparently recognized what was going on. He walked past me and grabbed the piece of wood that was barring our way out before. He dragged it along the stone floor with a strength I couldn't hope to match. Soon the wood was wedged upright in the secret room's rock-sliding door. Hurry up in there. My feathers don't know how long that plank will hold, or if the little one will be able to keep the torch lit, he said to Chifundo, Buddy, and the box pony. I still cannot believe that some pony was under a box, and that was all I knew them by. Hey, how long have I been dead? The disembodied voice asked. Chifundo started to think about it and got a date. I would guess about 3 years if I can trust my eyes and ears. The thought hit me like a sack of bricks. 3 years. Okay. Well, as untimely as this conversation is, what with those inside the room scrambling to get out, I guess this is Now as good a time as any to ask, how long has it been since the mega spells went off? I slowly spoke between the torch and my lips to make sure I could be understood. The pony under the box, who was the first to get out of the room, seemed to tilt its head. Don't ask how I know that, just the way the box over it moved. Like 180 years ago, the box pony stated with a certainty like they were either playing an elaborate joke or dead serious. At that moment, the realization slammed into me like a brick wall. My jaw was dropped to the floor, and my eyes felt like they were bulging from my skull. The sound of the torch that had been in my mouth hitting the floor echoed through the room. How? What? I couldn't find the words. My mind was completely blown. 180 years? What the buck? How in Celestia's glorious sunbud flanks did that happen? How could that happen? Was the date in my pip-buck actually accurate? I was brought back to reality by the dropped torch slowly starting to burn against my coat. I yelped and jumped away. The torch above sputtered and died with a sizzle. There was a creak as the door began to squeeze on the heavy timber. Augustil threw his shoulder into it as the timber started to groan and crack under the weight of the door. "Hurry up!" the griffin growled out as he strained against the rock. Buddy scrambled around, kicking aside piles of bones and the refuse of who knows how many ponies that had been buried alive there. The wooden bar cracked louder, splinters forming along its length. "No more time!" Augustil screamed out, as Buddy finally turned around, diving through the door. With a huff, the griffin rolled out of the way, letting the stone crush the board, closing the tomb off once more. How awkward is it to say, "I remember a time from before the mega spells fell," were the first words to form a conscious thought and exhale from my mouth. What had become of my parents? Had I really been that long? How was I alive? I knew the stable put us in and out of stasis between the few dozen doctor's exams and shots, but 180 years? 183, a number at the top of my pip-buck reminded me. "I'd say you've been soaking a few too many rads, dog," Buddy replied as he dropped a pile of weapons, saddlebags, and the backpack with the sunrise painted on it. "No, I think they may have put us in and out of stasis over and over again. I guess. Longer than I thought." I was starting to calm down on the outside, but my entire world had been flipped, and now I knew I had no concept of the world I had gotten out of the stable to, much less the creatures around me. Well, I'd say I had heard crazier stories of Boz, but certainly not this. Neota, for once, did not have a borderline hostile tone. He still spoke in a direct monotone that was serious all the time. Augustil took a moment to observe my pip-buck as well as the stable barding. He seemed to be lost in thought for that moment before speaking. "I have heard of stables doing experiments on the ponies inside, but nothing like that. I mean, there was one tale where they supposedly took all the foals and raised them to believe like the person in charge was a god or something like that." I dropped my rear flanks to the ground and hung my head. Those of us who did not have cutie marks yet were sent somewhere else in the stable, away from our parents. They did things. I hesitated as a chill flushed down my spine. I wasn't sure what information these creatures could be trusted with, nor did I know what memories I wanted to drag up right now. I really do not want to go back there. I don't know why, but I don't. The idea is terrifying. I don't know why, but that is making me shiver right now. Hopefully they don't press for answers. Please don't ask because I'm not 100% sure. "Then no," Buddy blurted out simply, working to get what was his gear and distribute what was ours to us. "Are your parents dead?" the pony in the box asked me with a poke of her white hoof. I don't know," were the only words I could form. I couldn't help myself as 2 tears rolled off my cheeks and struck the floor. This world I woke up to is a horrible, awful place. What are my choices? Talk about killing others or staying and being experimented on? My coat had been white when I last saw my parents. Now it was an emerald green. That isn't natural, even if I am missing as much time as my pip-buck says. The world really sucks, doesn't it? "Welcome to the Wasteland, kiddo," Neota said to me, nudging the shotgun into my hooves. I pulled it up to my shoulder, and it fit like the one from the memory, like it was meant to be there. "That's why I'm in this box. The box protects," came a cheery voice from the cardboard-protected pony. "This is surely a very nice pack. Let me help it onto your back." Chifundo adjusted the collar of my barding to fit the backpack. My back stretched and adjusted like a familiar weight was lifted to it. That sent a chill down my spine. These things were mine. I guess that explains why the mole rat with the top hat was saying I'd need to know how to use this. Immediately after saying that, my face contorted in confusion and I blinked. Wait, what did I just say? Something about a mole rat with the top hat? That could talk? How far off the deep end was this? This can't be a dream. I got slightly burned by that torch earlier. I should have woken up from pain, right? Once again, I found the griffin talons of Augustil grabbing me. This time he lifted me up until I was eye level with him, finally staring eye to eye with the scary griffin. He kept his heavy, one-eyed stare square on me, not letting me look away for even a moment. Look, kiddo, this world is literally kill or be killed. Get used to that right now, or you won't make it far. His gravelly voice sounded like murder in my ears. I sucked up the tears and let out a sniffle. He was right. I had to be stronger than this, or things were going to get ugly fast. My parents were killed right beside me. This is going to be the most unpleasant dump you could find yourself in, the box said as it pressed into me, almost like the pony inside was trying to put a hoof around my flank to hug me, but was box blocked. A dangerous thought occurred to me. Is this one of the reasons none of you have shot at each other yet? Or because you all want to get whoever put us in that pool? You haven't done nothing bad yet, Buddy replied, trying to calm us all with some sincerity in his voice. Till you do, you help us get out of here, together. Well, you've done nothing too, Looney, and you have been a friendly pony, Chifundo gave with a sagely nod. I still hold some suspicions, but you're a friend of mine so long as we have a common goal or foe. Augustil's gravelly voice made me shudder. He let go of my shoulders and nudged past me. I started to grasp the danger I might be in now. What had I run into? What kind of world was this truly going to be for me when I got out of this cave? I hung my head and fell into line near Augustil. At the very least, he had tried to wake me up to the reality of the situation. I was at least willing to trust some pony that was being nice enough to be truly honest with me. The dark hallway loomed ahead as we walked out without another word. Well, my little post-apocalyptic ponies, that brings us to the end of the first chapter of Dead Tree. It looks like Wandering Sunrise is about to experience the wild wasteland. While the world might be different than she remembers, it should still make some sense, though she should be prepared for the occasional oddity or exploding pistol. Make sure to tune in next time, and until then, keep your weapons loaded and your spirits high. This is Mr. New Pegasus, signing off.